Good morning. Chris Williams is the founder and the co-owner of LaSille's restaurant there in Houston in the Museum Quarter. It's a very successful restaurant, very elegant Southern food. The restaurant was actually named after his great-grandmother. Chris is African American. They tend to serve a wonderful Southern cuisine. His grandmother, back in 1913, was starting a catering business in Fort Worth. Now, 1913 was the 50-year anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. And so it was that Chris thought this is a great way to honor his grandmother, to celebrate her heritage 100 years ago, and that's what he wanted to name the restaurant. And so it really is LaSille, 1913. Well, it was doing very well, and then of course the pandemic came along. Like many restaurants, he and his partner resorted to selling takeout, trying to keep as many employees as they could on staff. But then they saw another opportunity. Again, just like we saw here in Oklahoma, there were so many people who had lost their jobs, and the need for food was so great. And so they began preparing meals and taking them into the most difficult places in the areas of Houston to feed the hungry. Close to 1,000 meals a day. They made a huge difference. The story was picked up by Lester Holt and NBC News. They ran it on the evening news, and when they did, it was picked up or saw by a Jeff Parks. Jeff Parks saw the story, and he immediately called his sister Laura and said, "I know what we need to do with the food truck." You see, Laura had a son, Jesse. Jesse had grown up very outgoing, vivacious, friendly, but he had all kinds of health issues. And as he grew into a teenager and a young adult, these health issues became greater and greater. And like so many people, he began to get on pain medication, and before he knew it, with all the Oxycontin and things, he was hooked. He struggled with drugs. He also had some bipolar issues. He had always loved cooking with his mom. And so it was that his mom decided to try to help him, and she set him up with a food truck, and he went out to L.A. to make his way. And there he did. He actually did very well, but then there'd be times that he would struggle again with that drug addiction and health issues. But he was so outgoing and friendly, people really didn't know all the demons and the struggles that he had going on inside. Finally, he reached a time when he knew he needed to go home. And so he came back home to Ohio. He got into rehab. He really was doing so well and really on medication and looking forward to the future. When he started having some pain, he took some medication, and there was an accidental overdose. It was New Year's Eve, 2016, and Jesse was 35 years old. It was such a tragic loss for the family. For a while, they just had wondered what in the world to do with this food truck. You make a real investment in building a food truck. And when they saw this story, here Jeff called his sister, and so then he got together with his brother John. Laura said, "Absolutely, this is what we need to do." So the two brothers drove it down from Ohio. Laura flew in from Colorado, and there they met Chris to give him this food truck, just a gift, to be able to use it and go out to continue to bless others. Chris was so overwhelmed by the generosity and that gift. And he immediately said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Jesse's story and be able to tell some of the good things about him and have that on the truck. And then a number of the food items they were going to develop, they would name after the family, Laura and Jeff and John. No, he wanted to honor them as he used this gift to go out and to bless lives. And Laura and Jeff and John, it really inspired them and helped them to deal with their grief as they gave this truck to Chris. Because that's how it happens. When in the midst of your own sense of grief and loss, you choose to go out and to bless somebody else, and it does something in your soul. Jesus told us, whenever you do it unto the least of these, you do it unto me. when you and I make that decision that we're going to go out and be a blessing unto the least of these, it will help you with your own sense of grief or loss or dark nights. That's one of the ways where you and I can find our hope. Let today be a day of hope as you are a blessing. Have a good one.